Hello and welcome to the November 2020 edition of What's Jessica Reading Now? I am Jessica, the Macedon Public Library's self-proclaimed bibliophile. I like to read a lot of different genres, but I'm also a fan of the young adult fiction or the YA genre. Today, though, I'm going to talk about a few other books. In the past, I've just talked about YA books, but I'm actually going to throw a few adult fiction in there as well. So to go over what I've been reading most recently, I'm going to start with actually what is one of our new arrivals in adult fiction. I don't actually have the book in front of me because it's currently out, but just to show you what the cover, that's the word I'm searching for, looks like, is it looks like this. It's a black cover with some gold lettering. It is called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. V.E. Schwab is actually already a well-known author in the YA field. She has a well-known YA duology, which is a two-book series called Vicious, and the second book is called Victorious. So she's well-known in that arena, but she has published a few books in adult fiction. And her latest, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, is considered not only adult fiction, but historical fantasy, meaning it weaves together actual history with fantastical elements. In this particular story, our protagonist, Addie LaRue, is a woman who grew up in 1600s provincial France, and she decides that that life is not the life that she wants. She wants to live a bigger, fuller life, and in a moment of desperation, she sells her soul to a dark figure, a sort of shadowy, dark god. Not exactly what we would call, uh, uh, or what we would term like Satan. He's sort of older than that. There's a little bit of that in there, but it's more like he doesn't, that the label doesn't really apply. He's supposed to be one of many gods, but he's the only one that you see. And while she makes this deal, there is a caveat that she is not aware of until after the deal has been made, which is that she will live until she no longer wants to, which is it becomes a rivalry between her and this god, that it becomes a standoff, that she's going to keep finding things to live for so that he can't have her soul. But the trick that he's played on her is that she is basically immortal, but everyone she meets forgets her. So she can have no meaningful relationships, no long-term alliances. There's no place for her to live. There's no way for her to build any sort of life. And this goes on for about 300 years until one day she goes into a bookstore and meets a young man named Henry who remembers her. And that's where the story kind of takes off from there. I will say it is a beautifully written story. The prose themselves are lovely. I found it to be a little slower than I was expecting based on the premise. I thought it was going to be a very fast paced novel. I thought it was going to be something that I couldn't put down. I did read it in a couple of days, but I did find myself able to put it down and walk away, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just it wasn't quite as compulsively readable as I was expecting. It was a little slower than what I was anticipating, but it was still a very good read. Well written, well put together, good characters, very intriguing plot, very this intriguing setup of what would you do. It also weaves together, it goes back and forth between her past and figuring out this curse and modern day. So there's a lot of modern day elements as well, that add some interest to the story, as well as going back to the historical. So if you're looking for something that is got that sort of mystical element, it's got those sort of characters that grab you, that are not always 100% good, sort of gray characters, then I would definitely recommend picking up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I know it is currently checked out, so it's something where if you want it, you might have to go to your OWWL account, your OWL account, and place a hold on it. Or if you've never placed a hold before and you need some help, you can always give us a call here at the library and we can help you out as well. But you can look for this one on our new arrivals shelf whenever you're in. The next book that I finished was also another adult fiction. I picked this one up specifically because here at the library, we currently have a holiday reading challenge going on. If you are interested in entering into our holiday reading challenge, there is an opportunity to win a $50 gift card. The challenge is to read 4 books. Once you read 4 books, you get 1 ticket entered into the raffle. And for every book after that, you get 1 ticket. So 4 is the minimum. And then like if you read 5 books, you'll have 2 tickets in. If you read 6 books, you'll have 3 tickets in, that sort of thing. It does not have to be a holiday themed book. But I did look at our suggested reading list for holiday books, and I picked up this novella. So it's a very small book called The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Bachman. I have heard about Frederick Bachman before. I had been warned that his books will basically destroy you, that they have those sorts of very human elements, and those sort of, he's able to evoke those sort of moments in life and those emotions that can just do a number on you. And for such a short little book, this one has remained with me even a couple days later. The basic premise is, what would you do if faced with, it's kind of funny, I didn't realize this is also making another deal just like the other one, but what would you do with faced with the option of what would you give up to save another person's life, basically. It's a very short book, very quick read. I read it in one afternoon, but it is a heavy read. It will stay with you. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it was a quick read, and I was able to put this on my list for the holiday challenge. If you are interested in that, you can register at the Macedon Library website. It'll take you, there's a link right on the front page that'll take you to where you register to sign up for that. So I would recommend this book. I do believe that it is, it's definitely worth the read. But just be warned that it's not necessarily happy, I guess. I read another novella of his too, also called And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer, which was also another short read. So if you want all the feels, pick up a Frederick Bachman book. The next book I finished was also, or was actually a little lighter and a little more fun to read. This one I got through our interlibrary loan. So this one is not one that we have here at Macedon. I had it sent in. I placed a hold on it and had it sent in through our interlibrary loan. It is called it's just called Bone Criers Moon by Catherine Purdy. This is a YA fantasy romance. The basic premise is that there are this group of women who in this world are born with the powers to ferry the dead basically to the afterlife. And if they don't do that, then problems arise. Then the dead can't pass over. As part of their rite of passage to become one of these farriers of the dead, a lairess, as they're called, or as the kind of lay people call them, bone criers. Part of their rite of passage is that they have to kill 3 different animals and take one of their bones so that they can basically get that animal's powers. And this makes them powerful enough to fight any of the not so nice spirits that are resisting passing over. The final test is that they are to stand on a bridge, basically on the night of the full moon, play this bone flute, this song on a bone flute, and it will lure their true love to them. And as a final sacrifice to these gods that they follow, they are meant to kill their true love. That's sort of like the final testament of how committed they are to this life. They do have a year if they don't kill this poor young man right away. They are given a year, basically to conceive a child or to whatever, I guess, during that time. But if they don't kill their true love within that year, then both of them will die. It's definitely YA. It's full of a lot of YA tropes. It was very tropey. It does the thing where every chapter is sort of narrated by a different point of view. It switches back and forth between our main female character and our main male character. But there's also a third female character that's thrown in there that we get her perspective. I found it surprisingly engaging. I think because there was a lot of action in it. There was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of sort of butt kicking, and because these women are almost like they almost have like superpowers. And I found it a lot more entertaining than I thought I was going to. So I would recommend that just as a fun read. This is a duology. The second book will be coming out in March. So this one is not completed yet, but it will be shortly. So I'm looking forward to that. The other books that I've read, I don't have with me to show, but these are ones I wanted to highlight because I had gotten them through the Owl to Go system, the OWWL, the number 2 GO .org system. That is our digital library. So through our digital library, you can either get digital copies of books, you can also get audiobooks. And during the month, between the month of October and the month of November, I listened to 3 different books in a series of books called the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. The Dresden Files are an adult fantasy series. It follows the adventures of Harry Dresden, a wizard for hire who gets into all kinds of tight places, and how he gets out of those, and his allies that he has and the people he cares about along the way. Quite a snappy read. It reminds me of episodic TV shows of like the early 2000s where like they maybe weren't necessarily connected to each other. But I guess further on in the series, they do become connected. What I found really engaging about listening to the audiobooks is that they are narrated by James Marsters, who, if you ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he is Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He is not British. I was surprised to find, but he does the voice of Harry Dresden, and he does a really good job. He really brings these books to life, which is something that can make an audiobook a lot of fun when you have a really good narrator who manages to bring the characters to life, especially a very character-centered story like these. So those I would definitely recommend if you're looking for something, especially that can be a little irreverent, a little bit more just fun. You're just kind of along for the ride. It's almost a little bit, that pulp fiction. There's sorcerers, there's werewolves, there's ghosts, there's there's evil fairies, there's all kinds of stuff. So how you would get to those is by going to either the Owl website and looking for the digital library, or you can go directly to OWWL, the number 2 GO, so owltogo.org, and search for the first book is called Stormfront. So I definitely recommend those for some other mediums too to read, because that's how I get so much reading done. Is I don't just read the physical copy of books, although that is my preferred way to do it. I also listen to audiobooks when I can. And of course, the best is when you can get the audiobook and the physical book so that you can maybe listen to the audiobook in the car while you're driving and then still have the physical book to read when you get home. So those are the books that I read for the month of November. As I said, Bone Crier's Moon is one that was an interlibrary loan, which you can have sent in from any of the 42 libraries. You can have books sent in from any of the 42 libraries in our library system. Frederick Bachman's Deal of a Lifetime is here at Macedon. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is also here at Macedon. If you are looking for audiobooks, I highly recommend our digital library under Owl to Go. And I just wanted to highlight quickly a couple of books that I'm looking forward to. We've gotten a lot of new books in, so I'm looking forward to reading a new adult fiction. This is already at my house, so I got to pick it up, called The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow. This has to do with witchcraft and the women's suffrage movement. So that sounds like that'll be very, very fun. In our YA section, we've also gotten some new books in that are definitely worth taking a look at. The next one I plan to pick up is called The Left-Handed Booksellers of London by Garth Nix. Garth Nix is a well-known fantasy author. This one has to do with a girl searching for her father, runs into a boy searching for his mother's killer. He is a left-handed bookseller of London, which is a group of people who basically protect the modern world from the mystical, and hijinks ensue from there. So that one sounds like a lot of fun. Another of our new YA books is called The Enigma Game by Elizabeth Wen. I'm not quite sure how to say it. She's also the author of a fairly known well book called Codename Verity. This is about a group of young people this is historical fiction, so there's no fantasy, there's no mysticism. This is just historical fiction in which a group of young people have to come together and are tasked with breaking German codes to help turn the tide of the war. So that one also sounds like a very interesting book to get into. I do like the mystical and the sort of fantasy books, but I think my next favorite genre is historical fiction. So I'm very much so looking forward to that. As of right now, both of these are on our shelf in our YA section. So if you're looking for a new read, they are here for you. And I think for this month, that is it. I hope that I gave you some recommendations for some new books. You have some things to look forward to. We have a lot of new books in right now. So if you are in the mood for something new to read, you can always come in and browse around in our library. And until next time, happy reading. I hope everyone has a good holiday, and I will see you in December.